Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquin, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number, I know you know it, 800-951-0592. Wealth insurance. Crazy, reckless, idiotic financial insurance. Crazy, reckless, idiotic presidential insurance. Just about any other thing you could possibly name. The ever mounting bubble and bubble popping machine insurance that the Federal Reserve has become. Have it before you need it. You know, right before I got on, first of all, it's going to be hard to do a show today. Steve Mitchell was on Jacked Up today, and I love it. I love what he's on. He does a show, Red Pill Truth, on the weekends. It is must-listen-to radio. It just scares the living crap out of me, you know, because when you hear him put the pieces of the puzzle together, you're like, man, just incredible, all the things that Steve's been talking about, especially over the last couple of years, and then you watch it play out and you see it happen. If you missed the Jacked Up show, go to the podcast, check it out at 1360khnc.com. So if I'm a little rattled today, that's why. We're going to talk about, we had some economic data out, retail sales were out, we heard from Walmart, we heard from Home Depot. If you want a clue of how it went, the Dow is down over 300 plus points. The Nasdaq's down 200 points. Just to give you an idea of how well or not so well it went. We're going to talk about who's buying all this debt. Wolf Richter at it again. So we got a great show lined up for you. What a rainstorm! Did you guys see that rainstorm? I cannot believe how much it's rained here. And at the same time, yesterday it happened. It's official now. Arizona is going to lose. Here's the official number: 18% of the Colorado River water, 8% of the total water. The main victims, number one, Central Arizona farmers. Those are the ones that are going to get the brunt of that one. The water cuts, California. This is how bad things are getting here. Right now, the way they see it here, and you think about it here, we're almost done with 2021. They're saying that water cuts to hit California, who's last in line, by 2023. So get ready. All this rain has been great. It's just not raining where we need it to rain. And really, it's got to snow where we need it to snow. But it was incredible last night. There was downed trees all over the place here near the office. It's been, I know Scottsdale, I think we've gotten like 3 years of rain in like the last 8 weeks. It's been absolutely awesome, and we love it. It's great. It's just not quite where it needs to be. Here's the good news, though. Our other water supply doing well because of the rain. So there is a little silver line. Not going to help the farmers, which isn't going to help us at the grocery store. You know how that all works as well. But it is so amazing. The more I read about the water, you know, I was at Lake Powell. You know, Lake Powell is the second largest reservoir in the United States. Lake Mead is the one that caused this water cut. This one that was enacted yesterday is because of the water level at Lake Mead. But I want you to picture a martini glass. Okay, the dam is where the you know, kind of where the bottom of the martini is, you know, the glass. So that's the most water possible. But every foot that water goes down, the glass, it's got the I'll call it the high rim, right? The water, the surface area becomes so much less, and going to be really interesting. So be ready for that. I don't know how you fix it. Maybe we should call the Chinese and they can make it rain and snow where it's supposed to. Did you see the president? Did you watch it at all? And I'll say this. I don't mind that we left Afghanistan. I don't. How we left in the absolute disaster that it was. And I'll be honest with you, I don't believe for 1 second Joe Biden is in charge at all. This was an absolute you-know-what show. I mean, 8 days? 8 days. That's how long it took the Taliban to seize the whole country. As it sits right now, we've got more troops in Afghanistan now than before the whole drawdown started. I mean, think about that, because it's been such a mess. And this is the huge problem. We focus here about, your financial well-being. And this is really truly the perfect storm. We've got a Federal Reserve that bought into the easy solution. The easy solution was, we'll just create more debt. It'll be fine. Don't worry. And the economy's going to turn around. The economy's always turning around. But yet the amount of money we've got to spend to get it to turn around keeps growing and growing and growing. When we get back, I'll tell you who's buying it all. Don't touch that dial. Patriot Radio News Hour, as we're watching sales out, retail sales down. Expected, yes. Maybe not as bad as it came in, down 1% in the month of July. So this is the start of the third quarter. And again, I think this is something where we're going to see GDP really come in now. Now that we're not sending the stimulus checks out, the retail sales were supposed to decline 0.3%. So this was a much bigger decline. Motor vehicles had a lot to do with it, obviously. Not a lot of choice. Clothing and apparel also saw that. Gasoline sales, eating and drinking establishments saw gains. And obviously gas prices way up this year versus last year. You go to the restaurants, everything's more expensive when you're going there. But the numbers were down 1.1%, well above estimates. Take the autos out, still down 0.4. So again, more than what was expected. The Walmart and Home Depot came out. Walmart had good, but think about this, even with the increase in food stamps, which we know, listen, Walmart gets the lion's share of that money. They're saying the second half of this year, much slower. And I guess that just makes sense, right? If we're not going to send out a $1,200 check or a $900 check or what have you, that's going to create issues for Walmart. And again, really, they're getting the money for the kids, right? The $250, $300 a month. An increase in food stamps, 25%. And still may not be enough. Home Depot did say they saw a big decline in, I guess, what do you want to call it, home remodels and things of that nature. People maybe not spending the way they were spending, sprucing up the home. Probably had a lot to do with lumber became a fortune during the quarter. So not great economic data out today. That put the Dow on its back foot. Gold, some there. Remember 795. 17. Very crucial level. 1795. Maybe remember we were in that pretty much all summer long. 1795 to 1830 level. We're going to breach that here really soon. This was just our first run up. We've taken back weakness that occurred on that one day. Looks like we're building that support 1780, which is on the other side of it right now. Gold's down $3, 1783. Prices are up yesterday. A lot of money coming into the gold market. Central banks. Now, I don't know. Was it simply a hedge fund or a bank? I don't know. Which should be banned because that's not price creep. That don't remember, gold fell $100 in a matter of minutes on a Monday after a weekend in the opening electronic trade. Somebody like 70 metric tons of gold, and now we've already taken it away. And I said I don't know if it was just money. Because nobody would sell that way. That's the problem. Nobody goes in 70 metric ton. I'm going to do. It's like Bank of England type nonsense. They were deliberately trying to lower the price to take advantage of some kind of. Was it a central bank, right? And primarily, of course, you know who I'm talking about. Were the Chinese making a huge gold purchase? I don't know yet about that. All I can tell you is we've got the Q2 purchases of central banks. Brazil, the latest central bank to purchase gold. The Brazilian central bank purchased 62 tons of gold. So again, this is another new bank. You know, you used to be, who bought gold? Right, as far as central banks go. Well, the Russians did it, right? Venezuela, well, of course, they sell gold, or they try to. They're not very successful because we don't let them. Iran, right? Turkey, countries that were predominantly on the what I'll call the bad guy list. And now we're seeing all of these countries, you know, Brazil being the latest, Poland, India, a lot of Eastern European nations now all buying gold. And to buy 62 metric tons, that's a big amount. It's not only the fact that these purchases were made, but it was also the speed at which they've done it. The 62 tons were bought over a 3-month period. So think about this. As the whole time I've been telling you, please add to your portfolios. And I keep saying, you know, we're like in the eye of the hurricane, right? It's all calm. Gold's off of its highs. And now we find out that, once again, these central banks are snapping it up. Brazil adding 62 metric tons. They essentially doubled their gold holdings in 3 months. And it just 333 metric ton percent increase over the 5-year average. Just alone, Q2. April, May, June. Oh, gee. When was gold at the lowest? Oh, yeah, April, May, June. Up 200 tons. So I want you to just think about this. Gold has been soft. It's going to stop being soft. But it was soft the first half of this year. Central bank, 333 metric tons. The largest purchases were recorded in Thailand, Hungary, Brazil. Just those 3 nations, 15 tons, right? So think about this. We just added more nations. Thailand, that's new. Brazil, new. Hungary, they just started. They're new this year. Demand for jewelry, 873 tons. So between jewelry and central banks, what are we talking about? 1,150 metric tons alone. So outside of China, that's almost half of all the mine supply there is. And this is half of the year. Year-over-year increase in jewelry, by the way, up 60%. Most of that having to do with India, right? We watch them very closely. Egypt, another country that has added. They added 15 tons. So now all of a sudden we've added Thailand, Hungary, Poland, Brazil, Egypt, right? The list continues to grow they added 10 tons last year. Jewelry demand in Egypt was 13 tons. So think about this. The central bank bought twice as much, more gold, 15 tons. Jewelry demand in Egypt is about 14 tons. So you can see the demand as it keeps picking up. Says global demand in the first half of 2020 was down 11%, but that's just from last year. Remember think about this. Last year was COVID. And remember, we broke records. I mean, we broke the monthly sales record here at Patriot last year, 7-8 months in a row. And they're saying, well, gold was quote unquote soft. That demand only fell 11%. And most of that was in the first quarter. The second quarter was only down 1%. And they're saying that total demand looks like it's setting up for a rebound in the second half of the year. We may not be down at all. And here's the thing. Global supply, way down. China, the largest gold supplier in the world is China. The first half of this year, now China, it was anticipated they were going to be below 400 metric tons of mined gold this year because their production has been falling. And we know COVID has had a big effect. The first half of this year, China only mined 150 metric tons. Think about this. Brazil, almost by themselves, bought half of China's supply. If you throw in Thailand and Hungary, that's over 2/3 of all the gold China would have produced in a year. And remember, now China doesn't export any of it. They don't export any of the gold. These three nations, Thailand, Hungary, and Brazil, bought more gold than any individual country that actually will export gold mined in the whole first half of the year. So this is another developing picture. And I know a lot of you get frustrated. I get frustrated sometimes because gold isn't allowed to trade to the realities. But it does. Believe me, it will get there. And this is why when you watch, if you ever follow gold and you look at what it does when the gold makes big moves, they make huge jumps very, very quickly because all of the fake stuff that they built into the price comes rushing to the realities. And that's why you got to buy these low points. 800-951-0592. So once again, central banks lining up. Central banks that, I've been doing this a long time. Coming up on year 19. Patriot, this is year 25. Getting ready to start year 26. Central banks that have never bought gold. I want to tell you how quick things have changed, because it's very important, because we're going to talk next. Who's buying the debt? All of those gold purchases I just told you about, those countries used to buy U.S. debt. And I'm not saying that they're not. But that was money that would have gone into U.S. treasuries. I guarantee it. That's not. And just so you know, 1 metric ton. Oh, well, what is 232,150 ounces? And let's just use $1,800 because it's easier math for a simple guy like me. It's about $58 million per metric ton. You know, when you think about the fact that they bought 339 metric tons, that central banks did in the first half, that's about $20 billion. It's not a huge amount. Pretty good, though. 20 billion plus 20 billion is 40 billion, right? That's next year another 50 billion, 80 billion, 100 billion. And you can kind of see how much we're really talking about here, because the gold market in total, mine supply this year, because of what happened with COVID and all of that, going to be So are we talking about, and that includes China. You got to take China out because they don't export anything. Are we talking about central banks buying 20, 30 the mine supply in a year? Something's up. What are they getting ready for? Be your own central bank. I tell it to you all the time. And the fact that all of these countries are all doing it tells you something, because go back to the late 90s and early 2000s. You know how many central banks bought gold? None. Zero. Matter of fact, the European Union, they had an agreement that made between all of us, because they didn't want the price to fall too fast. So think, just in the last 15, 16 years, we're talking about being net sellers of 500 metric tons to, let's just say, the number, whatever they bought in the first half, they buy in the second half. Okay, so no more, no less. This year, they'll have bought somewhere around 680 metric tons. And to be honest with you, China's been a whole new player in all of this. So they weren't even really thought of back in the early 2000s even. So it's astounding, the change. Why? It's very simple. The central bank, and not just of the currency, and all of these other central banks are saying, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to put some gold away. I'm going to put some gold away. It's almost astronomical to think about the difference of what they used to sell to what they're now buying. But Wolf Richter, just another great article out of him. The U.S. debt ballooned by over $5 trillion since March of 2020. Now, remember, I told you the Trump administration had money left over, and Biden and Janet Yellen, instead of putting it back, decided to spend it all. And now they still talk about the budgets when they're talking about passing. They still talk about like they've got all this extra funds left. No, they don't. They spent it. But neither here nor there. We don't even know what the debt is right now. Somewhere approaching $29 trillion, because we're at the debt ceiling. The burning question: who in their right mind bought these Treasury securities? Think about this for a minute. The highest yielding treasury would be a 30-year note. If you bought a 30-year note this year in real yields, and this is using the central bank's inflation number, so it's not even real. In real fake yields, you're losing 3.5%. But most people don't buy 30-year debt. Most of the debt is 2 years or less. You're talking about losing 4% plus. Some cases, 5%. 30-year yields were yielding zero. 30-day, not 30-year, sorry. 30-day notes, zero. Who would do that? Well, the Treasury Department released its data, and bless Wolf Richter's heart, he goes through it and lets us know who's buying and who isn't. Japan, who's now the largest holder of treasuries. Remember, it used to be China. They didn't buy it. Matter of fact, they bought $5 billion less. Now, I want you to know that's $5 trillion in new notes, in addition to however many trillion we had to roll over since March of 2020. So my guess is we probably had to sell somewhere around 15 trillion, but I'm guessing. How about China, the second largest holder? Nope. Their purchases fell another 16 billion. Matter of fact, China right now is right near the recent lows. They're barely over $1 trillion. Are we going to see China's treasury holdings fall below $1 trillion? Probably. So who was buying it? One of the things that we know, and I'll just give you the 10 biggest holders after them. UK, they own $450 billion. Ireland, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Brazil, Cayman Islands, Taiwan, Belgium, India, and Hong Kong. And Hong Kong owns like 200 billion. So where were the buyers? I'll tell you who they are next. 800-951-0592, central bank buying continuing to escalate and spreading. We've issued an additional over $5 trillion in the last year and a half, on top of what we've got to roll over. Who's buying? Well, it wasn't foreign central banks. They weren't buying. Now, who was? Well, there are foreign holders in total, which include the central banks who weren't. Government entities, institutional investors, corporate entities, banks, and individuals. That number did go up. They bought about $250 billion of the $5 trillion. Most of that, and I'm guessing, is going to be on corporate entities. Because as I've told you, Apple doesn't keep their billions in the bank. Microsoft doesn't keep their billions in the bank, right? Toyota and Honda, they don't keep it there. They buy treasuries, they buy debt with it. That's what they do. But only $250 billion. Here's what's interesting, though, about this, what we'll call foreign holders in total. They used to hold about 35% of our debt. That number's down to 25%. Matter of fact, it's the lowest since the financial crisis, and it keeps heading lower. Now, there was a little spike up here, but with all the bailouts, corporate profits got juiced. If corporate profits start getting squeezed, which is what Walmart and Home Depot are saying is going to start happening, that number is going to keep falling. U.S. government pensions, military, federal civilian employees, plus the Social Security Trust Fund. Only $188 billion. And most of that was in government pension funds. Right, here's the problem. Social Security is not adding to this number anymore. And wait till the big increase next year. So again, this number's under pressure. By the way, this is something that in 2008, just to tell you how quickly the money's been draining out here, this particular group, which is under the U.S. government holdings, it used to be 45% in 2008. So we held a lot of the debt ourselves. Which they always told us, see, it's not as bad as it is because we owe it to ourselves. It's down to 21%. And unfortunately for us, by this time next year, it'll be below that. I mean, it won't even be 20%. The Federal Reserve, obviously, they've been the biggest buyer. $2.6 trillion. So the Federal Reserve is now buying over half of the new debt being created. And they're talking about tapering. Okay, sure. Sure. Jay Powell's Pinocchio, they're not tapering. I think this is my worry. My worry is it's got to get worse. The central bank now owns 18.2% of the national debt. It's incredible. And the number just keeps going up and up and up. U.S. commercial banks, they bought about $400 billion of it. So between the Federal Reserve and our banks, because they kind of force them to buy it, right, at the Treasury, whatever's left over, the bank's got to have. It's caused all kinds of problems, as most of you know. That's where 60% of all the sales went to. By the way, banks now hold 5%. To get that in perspective, before the financial crisis, they didn't even hold 2%. And how lucky do you think they really are? Thanks. Oh, gee, thanks. Thanks for making us buy this 1% note. They can't be happy with inflation running at 5%. Other U.S. institutions and individual investors. This was a big one because they actually reduced their holdings. They actually reduced their holdings by about $152 billion. Now, in fairness, they had bought a lot of treasuries in 2020. They've been reducing their holdings this year, especially Q2 alone, down $152 billion. But they were the ones that bought the rest. They bought about $2 trillion, and now they're getting rid of it. So that's who's bought the national debt. So think about this. Here's who's bought the U.S. debt: the Federal Reserve and other U.S. institutions. A lot of those, my guess, would be, again, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, things of that nature. And now they own about 14% of all United States debt. So really interesting data. So when you start thinking about why are these other why are they buying gold? Because they look at all of this debt and they're like, well, let's see, you made up $3 trillion of it, and then you got corporations. You bloated their profits, so they bought them. Yeah, this is a recipe for disaster. I think I'm going to get myself some love. Final segment coming up. Patriot Radio News Hour. Don't touch that dial. 800-951-0592. Just a Shout out to Wolf Richter for his information. Incredible. We are now essentially feasting on ourselves, gorging on ourselves. Foreigners turning away. Period. They're not buying them. What are they buying instead? Gold. Get your gold put away. Prices are up. I warned you yesterday. Listen, they're going to keep going. It's just, again, we're kind of coming out of the edge of this, this calmness and it's put up or shut up time for the Federal Reserve. And so far, it's been all shut up. Retail sales, big miss. Home Depot, Walmart saying, hey, things are getting tougher out there. We know about inflation. The cat's out of the bag there. We just had home builder sentiment falling again, the lowest in years now. Is people just can't afford it. U.S. $10 Liberties. I've got 75 $10 Liberties at $1,035 today. 800-951-0592. That's $10 off where they are right now. The Dow is now down 500 points, so picking up some speed here. The Nasdaq's down 250 points. The S&P down 60 points. And again, I think most people were really keying in on Walmart and Home Depot because, yes, the retail sales were bad, but they can, autos, that was the big problem, so it wouldn't have been that bad, but you take out autos, still down 0.4. But both Walmart and Home Depot saying that customers are starting to feel the pinch. And that's really the hard part, right? Because as things continue to get more expensive, right, those dollars just don't go as far. And this is kind of really what we're at. And then you think about who's buying all this debt. And the central banks are saying the same thing. Hey, wait a minute. Why would I buy that? Why would I lose 5%? And here's the realities. They know, hey, I know it's more than that. I'm not dumb. I know you got your funny math to calculate your inflation. Why would I want to lose 5, 10, 15%? I'll pass on that. Give me the gold. 800-951-0592. U.S. $10 Liberties at $1,035 today. Save $10 a coin. And again, auto dealers now, cars at new record high price. God, I say it every month. It's just incredible. Car prices through the roof, home prices through the roof, stock prices through the roof, right? I mean, corn, soybeans, wheat, right? You name it, through the roof. The largest increase in food stamps ever, 25%. What's the real rate of inflation here? 800-951-0592. God bless everybody. Stay safe out there. So watch out for all of those down trees. And keep the rain coming. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back on a hump day tomorrow.